Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I, man, here from the Block Runner. Today we're going to be talking about Decentraland, right?
Finally.
The rocket ship that has taken off in the last few minutes.
Yeah, really, it's been like slowly creeping up over the last few weeks. But dude, I don't know what the hell's going on. Some kind of like, I feel like Elon Musk like meme tweet
Yeah,
in
he did.
like 3 seconds. Like you're just gonna see,
It's like mana.
yeah, and, like somebody knows that's about to happen. Like it's just insanity. But really, there's an explanation for this, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. So first, let's talk about Bitcoin. So, going back, if you watch our last couple of days, videos in the last few days, we've had these two squares, right? They represent 19 days. And the reason why 19 days is because the last little dip happened over 19 days. So I said, well, what if that happened again? And
Perfect.
it was perfect.
Almost perfect. You
Yeah.
were late like a day, maybe.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's as perfect as like technical analysis is going to get. But yeah, so we broke through 60 grand. It's hanging out over here. So technically that means that, we're going to go up from here, right?
Yeah, man. I mean, we're in price discovery mode for Bitcoin, and like the whole market's picking up on that. And the alt space is certain sectors of the alt space are going out of control, but mainly the NFT sector, the gaming sector. If we break it down by category, you're going to see a lot of the classic blockchain game titans in the space, like the sandboxes, the engines, and the axes, the Decentralands. All of them are just going ham.
And speaking,
market is interested in this stuff.
Yeah, speaking about ham.
Oof.
So we've been part of Decentraland for almost
2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Almost, yeah.
And so we've been part of like the community developing Decentraland. And so
and all y'all OG watchers and listeners, congrats to all y'all,
Yeah.
It's been a long time coming, you know what I mean?
Pretty soon after we started the podcast, we met Maddie, who's DCLblogger.com. He runs that blog, and he's one of the biggest, NFT personalities out there that you can find. And so we interviewed him in the podcast, and he was telling us about Decentraland. Like we heard about it in 2017. We didn't quite understand like what Decentraland was because it was just a grid of, what was it, 90,000 parcels, yeah. So we interviewed him. He was explaining to us like, yeah, you can jump in this world, and we were speculating. Everybody was speculating as to what exactly it was going to look like, but you could jump into this world and see everything that's going on, and you can like build stuff. And at the time, there was no beta. There was no way to jump into the world. Yeah. So we were hanging around and just kind of learning about the space, and all of a sudden they dropped the beta. We were one of the first people in there, just like the community part of that time. And then my brother Corv watched the podcast, and he was like, "Man, we should build stuff here." And from there, we built MetaZone, and that's the thing that we keep talking about every single
it's weird,
podcast.
Right? Like just throughout these daily videos, every now and then we might reference like, somehow figure out a way how to reference MetaZone.
Yeah.
A lot of y'all are probably like, what the hell is that?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like our project, our little baby we've been nurturing for the last year and a half.
So what is Decentraland? So it's an open world where anybody, part of the community, can build anything that they want in Decentraland. And so these parcels, it's a 16 meter by 16 meter parcel. You can own them as an NFT. So you own that piece of land, and you can build stuff on it. Literally anything from rocket ships taking off to a concert like Travis Scott in Fortnite, yeah. So
obviously, like the more land you have, they call them estates. When it's more than just one parcel and they're all connected, the more possibility. Your height limit goes up. Just the limitations kind of expand. You can create, better things. But even individual parcels are still powerful. That's kind of like what's so cool about MetaZone. We've showcased the power of like an individual parcel with all these different, content. All this content can be combined to form like one cohesive, awesome experience. If you're an NFT art collector, you can come to our marketplace and buy a gallery that was constructed by somebody from the community, and you can populate it full of your NFTs. Now you have a virtual place to go and like, bask in the glory of your collection, or even like bring your friends to come bask in the glory of your own collection. That's just one possibility.
One of the most important things that intrigued us about Decentraland is that Decentraland is probably one of those projects that has the most potential. Like there's a huge upside still left in Decentraland that it's really hard to comprehend like how big that upside is, because Decentraland launched in February 2020, so it's been exactly a year, and it's been in development since 2017 when they did their ICO. Mm-hmm. And so they raised roughly, $24-25 million in their ICO. They still have a bunch of it, still in their accounts. Mm-hmm. And they've been building ever since the token launch, or ever since the ICO. So the reason why we like it so much is because that upside is being able to partner up with brands and do a collaboration with them. Like, for example, Nico, he built this DEX using
1inch, and he used the 0x protocol to kind of aggregate the price feeds so that you can get like the most accurate or the most optimal fees.
Yeah. And so
very good, very good.
Yeah, so essentially you can own a DEX within Decentraland. And
so that means a lot of things. Like right now it's just one machine, but there's tons of different protocols, right? So you could do the same thing with all the different DeFi primitives and, turn your parcel into a big DeFi hub of your own, if you just interact with your different machines however you would with different web protocols,
Right.
It's just like a whole different dynamic that doesn't exist in the 2D, display interface. Like the 3-dimensional interfacing is like a whole different world,
Yes, exactly. So, man, I mean, there's just so much to talk about in terms of like where the project is, what the community is building. I mean, there's a bunch of community, like Decentral Games, they just dropped a token not too long ago, maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. They dropped a token. Now they're worth $60 million, right? This is a community member, a team of people doing a casino within Decentraland. Now they're worth $60 million.
Yep.
Virtual casino, yeah. So, I mean, shout out to Boss. I mean, they've been killing it over there.
Yeah, there's a lot of different like organizations in here building. Like some are more focused on game design. You got 3D artists up the wazoo building cool shit. We got Ethermon building like the first digital pet experience in the metaverse. Where the big idea for like if you're like a developer in the metaverse space is to have user retention. That's like the biggest goal I think for any metaverse developer.
Right.
So the best way so what that basically means is you as a user, whenever you hop into these virtual worlds, there has to be plenty of things to do to keep you engaged and not ever want to leave. You know what I mean? That's the same line of thinking like any game developer has, So we're building a virtual universe here. It's got to do a lot of things. It's got to be fun. It's got to be sustainable so that we keep creating more and more creations and stuff like that. And in these new use cases, like bringing in these DeFi primitives is actually like functional and there's like utility to it now. So it's like you can imagine where you could build your own existence in these virtual worlds with all your DeFi Legos, with all your virtual pets that you have to kind of like interact with on a daily basis, or else they kind of start to hate you. You never really know. If you want to go to a nightclub, even like and socialize, because there's in-game chat, you could talk to each other.
You can voice chat with people.
Voice chat, yeah. If you want to go to a blockchain conference, we have those all the time in Decentraland. So like the use case for the metaverse, it's literally infinite. Like we don't even know like how far this extrapolates, So that kind of gives you an idea of like the speculative value of this thing, like because the potential is unknown.
Yeah. And now that Decentraland is worth $2 billion, it starts creeping into a lot more radars at this point in time. And you and I we keep talking about sustainability, and that's like sort of like our core tenets. Like, is this product actually solving a problem? And for Decentraland, the biggest problem is putting content onto the land. And we always say is like the only way we're going to bring content to the land is that there's an incentive to put content on the land. Mm-hmm. And that incentive has to be monetary, because that's what humans are used to in this game that we've concocted over the last century, right? Yeah. And so we said, well, in order to get content on the land, we need developers. Developers can't spend their expensive time making content for free, so they need a marketplace to put that content in. And why would they put that content in if there's no players in Decentraland, right? You got to think back. Back when they had launched, they had like maybe 10,000 players jump in on day one, And then it just like tapered off, right? Because we were still in the bear cycle, right?
That and as soon as the earning element of that launch, exhausted, there were no more, because the way you would earn during that
That's right. That's a good point. Yeah.
Discover these treasure chests. You would discover like loot randomly in the world. It was just a giant treasure hunt. And it was a week-long event. It kept the players engaged. We all wanted to be in Decentraland as long as we could to keep finding this value.
Yeah, we stayed up 24 hours.
Yeah,
just to participate, just because we had so many things to do, on the MetaZone side, but we also wanted to participate, right? It was like free loot, right?
Yeah, free loot. Well, not free. It was actually hard loot.
Yes, yeah.
Some of those fucking puzzles and shit were like some of the hardest things I've done, like harder than any raid boss in WoW. What I mean? Like straight hair pulling. It got intense, but that was just like a glimpse of the possibility. But the big main lesson, the big takeaway from that experience should be like for all of us developers in this space, this is what the player wants. The player wants like
to earn.
To have purpose. Yeah, purpose to earn, to return every single day because there's some value they're accruing at the end of it.
And so going back, the reason why MetaZone exists is because the best way to incentivize a developer is to figure out a way to aggregate eyeballs so that they can sell their content. Mm-hmm. So MetaZone was built, and now content is being populated in MetaZone by the community. Like one of them is Ethermon. And Ethermon, they made, for example, this is the egg nest. So you can purchase as a landowner an egg nest, and now you don't even have to be a landowner to purchase these and deploy it on a district, for example. Mm-hmm. But you can purchase this and encourage a lot of people to buy these eggs, and you earn revenue when people buy eggs on your meta, on your owned piece of content.
Yeah.
And so think about how this reinforces the relationship between the buyer, the landowner, the meta creator, and just our ability to support the platform. Mm-hmm. That as long as developers come in and make content and there's people to purchase that content and they're purchasing it because there's a potential revenue model, mm-hmm. then you have a sustainable ecosystem. If you don't have that, there's no way that the world of Decentraland is going to get populated by a bunch of donations, right? Mm. It just doesn't work that way. Now, the huge upside in Decentraland is like this is barely just the beginning. If you just drop into a random location in Decentraland, you'll see some stuff now, but it's mostly empty, relatively. Mm-hmm. Right? There's some hotspots, right? That you'll find a bunch of MetaZone metas, here and there. And then you'll see like huge like hotspots like Wonder Zone Meteor game.
Yeah.
Then you have the casinos. Then you have like the districts, and then the Genesis plazas where a lot of the concerts happen. So there's like really good hotspots, but overall, we need to focus on like expanding that ecosystem of sustainability.
But yeah, it's largely empty in the same sense that the internet in context of today was largely empty in
Absolutely.
The 90s to the early 2000s, right? At the time, it might not have seemed empty, but again, in today's context, like the internet pioneers of that time had no idea what was going to come in the future, like as far as like populating their virtual world, their version of the virtual, which is Web 2.0. Now we're taking it to the next level where, it's a much more immersive, interactive experience. Like whenever you're interacting with the internet, somebody in our community literally just made a freaking Domino's Pizza Hut ordering hub where it's like a little kiosk and you could just walk up to it, interact with the window as if you were like at a carnival, and you could order your pizza through that interface. You don't have to go to Domino's.com. They're just using the APIs that Domino's provides.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's just a glimpse of the potential of creation. That this is just the beginning. Like you said, we have no idea what's coming,
Yeah, and so just to bring it full circle, let's go back to the price. And everybody's going to want to know, well, where is it going? It's hard to know exactly where Mana is going because right now it's in price discovery. It's obviously never been $1.14, right?
Yeah.
So, can we give you a price prediction? It's like that. It's going to be hard. But if you go look at Bitcoin at $60,000, we're still at the beginning of this. Well, we're about, I don't know, depending on where you think Bitcoin is going, we could be 50% to 25% of the way there. So
yeah, just off my own gut reaction, because we broke through this consolidation phase so rapidly, it's this to me is like a confirmation of my own suspicion that this is for sure going to be like that super cycle we're all hearing so much about.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to top out much quicker than we were anticipating. I don't think this is something that's going to last up until this time next year. I'm thinking, this is just my own personal belief, more than likely sometime in the summer, we're going to see like the euphoric 100, like parabolic, like nonstop momentum for Bitcoin and the rest of the space.
Like 100,000 to 200,000, like 2 weeks.
Exactly. Like it's going to be some insanity. I think from there, the market's going to have to readjust and, return to its, bearings.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered everything we want to say about Decentraland. If you guys have any questions, make sure you join our Discord. That's where a lot of the conversations are having, like discovering tokens, figuring out like, what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
There's been some excellent calls by the community in terms of like tokens that go 500x in like 2 weeks.
Yeah. And even NFTs, like these guys are NFT hunters too. Like they'll find these freaking random little pixel cats that, one day selling for half an ETH, the next day it's selling for 100 ETH.
Yeah.
It's like, guys, get these freaking cats like as soon as you can.
Yeah.
Because these NFT tokens are going through the exact same like euphoric, market psychology that a fungible token does. It's the same thing. It's just a rush of enthusiasm towards a certain asset, and of course that just results in a price increase.
Yeah, that's right.
At the end of the day, all of these assets, all these digital assets, are just vehicles for speculation. And it's hard to front run that speculation. Like you really got to have your ear to the ground, and you got to feel the pulse, like everyone's pulse, if you really want to get in early.
Yeah. And if you are a creator, an artist, a 3D modeler, a programmer, consider joining MetaZone and making content here. There's a huge.
By the way, these are going to be NFTs. All of them.
That's right. They're on their way.
Yeah.
So all these, like that's why it says 19 out of 20, 46 out of 50. There's 46 dexes that you can own left that you can buy. So
right now they're off-chain assets, but once the smart contracts are rolled out, there's going to be a claiming process for all these NFTs.
Yeah.
And then every future NFT minted from that point on is just through the protocol itself, through the platform.
Yeah.
Smart contracts, permissionless minting, which is beautiful,
Yeah,
and it's all about.
And it goes back to the developer. If you are a developer, you can make revenue generating content, right? You just come up with a concept, figure out like the economics of how the landowner can make revenue, and then just post it up here. And I mean, this is like one of the most valuable pieces of content that you could find in the NFT space just to begin with. Most NFTs are just standard JPEGs and PNGs with, verifiable histories like Beeple, right? So don't want to hate on the artists out there, but there's another realm in the NFT space where there's utility to these NFTs, right? Some revenue generation, right? For example,
some game application, something like that,
Yeah.
So this is like a whole new value layer that is yet to be discovered and explored in the NFT space. So, but what we're seeing from the whole static NFT boom is it's only going to fuel people's curiosity to look for that next frontier for the space, and yeah, you're right. The utility NFT aspect, that's the next frontier for sure.
Hell yeah. All right, make sure you follow us on Twitter at The Block Runner and also at MetaZone.io. Hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, and everything. We appreciate all the comments, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace out.